So I got this quarter sawn piece of hickory. This is what happens when I break down a large half log. You know, the other half would have been here, the pith would have been here. So I get these quarter sawn boards, and they dry quickly. And so this is a raffin style spatula. I made one a while ago out of cherry. It came out pretty good. And so I just kind of, you know, lay it out. You know, these are the cheap bamboo ones from the kitchen that I need to eventually replace. And I just kind of lay it out, traced it, got the idea, and I might be able to get 3 out of this one board. So that'll be cool. Hey, what's up, friends? Roy with Talking Tim Works. How y'all doing? And I know it looks wonky, but it'll turn out. It'll be fine. We'll put it on the lathe. It should all come together. All right, these are pretty rough and ugly. Let's see if we can actually get something usable out of them. I'm curious to see now how kind of rough and ugly they are. So let's see how they turn out. All right, let's try this out. This one I kind of messed up a little bit, so let's see what this other kind of chunky boy does. I should have made that end flat. We'll keep that as a mental note. Let's see, there's probably going to be quite a bit of air on this. Should be interesting and fun. Okay, the readout says we're doing 16. All right, I want to get maybe a few misconceptions out of the way right here, right off the bat. I am not a professional wood turner. I've been doing this. It'll be 2 years in a month or so when Father's Day weekend comes up. So, I mean, if you want to see a guy knock out a project perfectly and flawlessly in like 5 minutes flat, I am not your guy. Go watch Richard Rappin or Steve Jones, the wood turner, and you can see a world-class turner just knock out some projects. I'm an average guy. Like I said, been doing this less than 2 years, and I'm just sharing and showing my journey. Hopefully some of you guys can relate to me, or are at the same skill level as me, might be going through the same struggles that I go through. So, like I said, this is a raffin style spatula. That's where I got my influence from, was watching his videos. Sometimes I can remember what he does, sometimes I can't. I remember him cutting a V-groove so that you're not cutting into a wall of ingrain when you plane down one way. I go out of order on this spatula, and I figure that out towards the end, that I probably shouldn't have reduced the area of the handle so much early on. And, you know, because on these long, thin spindle pieces, the more material you have reduced, the more it wants to whip around and give you chatter on your tool. But I'm doing this because I basically needed some smaller entry-level items at my local craft show. Because I live in kind of a poor area and the $100, $75 bowls don't move. I make my money off honey dippers and tops. So my thought process was to make a couple of spatulas and sell those at about the $25 mark to make a little bit of money and let people have a custom one piece, or not a one piece, but a one of a kind, you know, functional piece of art. These are also great practice for skews when you're turning open air. You know, the paddle end is more air than it is wood, and it really helps you to get comfortable with the uneasiness of a skew. That little bit of lifted grain right there is coming around, whipping the meat of the palm of my hand, and it stings pretty good, man. Man, well, I got you guys' attention, man. It would really help me out if you guys could subscribe to the channel if you already haven't. Hit the like button, and then you know, leave a couple of comments or some feedback. Definitely smells good. That is a definite plus. It's not a bad feeling handle. Okay, we'll work on tapering this back into that, I guess. So does that mean I was rubbing it too hard, or my skew is dull? If I can smell the hickory cooking? Oof. So right there, I hear that noise, and you can't see it, but I go over and I check to make sure my tailstock was tight, and then I increase the RPMs a little bit, because, you know, as you get down thinner and thinner, the more towards the middle and where it's thin, that piece is rotating considerably slower than the outer edges, like at the paddle. Feels good. It feels good for my hand. It probably needs to be smaller for a woman's hand. Or, I don't know. But you kind of go like this, so it might be a little bit heavy. I don't know. Interesting, interesting. That is some absolutely beautiful wood, though. I think hickory is kind of underappreciated in the woodworking world. Okay, so now here I'm starting to get that chatter from the piece being thin and it whipping around. So I try flipping the skew and going long point towards the headstock to alleviate that, and it's not doing it. So then I'm scared of the paddle to put my hand out there, and so I kind of do an underhand grip with my fingers, as you can see there, but I'm trailing the skew, not moving ahead of it, and it's not really stabilizing it like I need to, and I end up getting a bunch of chatter marks across the handle. I mean, you can hear the chatter marks, you can hear the vibration, you know it's not working. I'm not good with that yet. I don't want to break it. And so what I'm talking about right there is I'm not proficient with rolling a bead with a skew. When I try to do it, I usually get a pretty gnarly catch, and I don't want to lose the paddle. So I chicken out and go grab my spindle gouge, which is kind of a bummer. But what it's telling me is I need to just sit there and practice rolling beads with my skew, because it's a waste of time to sit there and swap tools, and you should be proficient with everything all the way through, not just planing and peeling cuts with it. So I know I need improvement there. Okay, so I saw those chatter marks and I was really bummed out about them. So now it's when I decide I need to have my support in front of the skew. And, you know, the paddle's pretty well rounded over, so I'm not as worried about smacking my pinky against it as I come across. But you can really hear the difference in the vibration of the tool where I'm supporting in front of the skew rather than trailing behind the skew. And these are things that a beginner that's teaching himself how to turn figures out as long as they go. You know, I can't remember everything from a video that I watch, and then, you know, hours before or days before I take it to the lathe. So it's difficult. It's not like having somebody hands-on teach you and correct you as you go. A lot of times when I edit my videos is when I notice that I'm doing something wrong and need to correct it. So I jump around a lot and I cut out a lot of the sanding. I don't think it's good entertainment value, but right here I'm doing something a little bit out of the ordinary. And what I'm doing is I'm sanding the paddle, but I'm sanding it in reverse. And my thought process is if I only sand it in forward, I'm only contacting one of the corners or two of the corners as they come around towards me. So I need to reverse. I don't normally reverse sand, but in this case where there's the big air gap and there's corners basically on the spatula, I reverse it in every grit and forward in every grit on that paddle to make sure I get all four corners rounded over and smoothed over. And here you see me chicking out, and I'm, you know, basically parting it off with my spindle gouge, not my skew like I should. Okay, well, we got one of these down without blowing anything up or tearing anything up too bad. I think I took a little bit too long. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I got a bunch of chatter marks. So I need to get this formed first, I believe, where this gets a nice taper. Man, it could have almost used a little bit more. Well, this taper is a lot better than this taper. So but that is a nice hickory paddle. Okay, this guy's long. These guys are both long and thin, so this should be interesting. I don't know. I'm going to have to remember which blank I liked better. I'm almost wondering if I should offset this just a little bit so I get a taper on one side. Alright, so I'm proud of myself on this one because I had a game plan where I kind of thought I was correcting myself in my technique, and I kind of followed it where I wanted to form the paddle before I started thinning down the handle. Oh! Oh, I'm not! See me jump out of the line of fire? And that's why I keep my control pendant over at my tailstock and not at my headstock. Because in a quick situation like that where I seen the piece get loose and about to go airborne, I move away from the piece over to my tailstock, not towards it at my headstock, to hit the emergency stop button. Okay, so here I am scared of that knot, so I got the great idea to switch over to my roughing gouge to try and baby around it. Nope. Ah! I knew that was coming. This knot and this tough grain in here was just causing way too much. Bummer. Let's see if we can fare a little bit better on this one. We shall see. But then I also wanted to bring up another thing, as I seen how ugly and uneven that blank was. Okay, our lathe is going to make everything round. It's going to make everything as close to perfect as we can get it. We don't have to start with perfectly square, planed, even, you know, perfect circles, anything like that. We don't need to start with stuff like that. It helps reducing vibration and lets you start at a higher speed. But I don't lose any sleep, and I don't fret about getting pretty blanks to start with. A little bit of tear out, man. Oh, that looks nice. All right, so it looks like the battery conked out on me, but here it is. All y'all missed really was some sanding and a little bit of profiling this handle a little bit. So, you know, this guy had the nut and broke. And then this is the other one. This one's got a lot heavier head and a thinner handle. This one, I don't know. We'll have to see what it looks like when we get it to the bandsaw and profile the blade portion. So we'll move the camera and head over to the bandsaw. All right, so my lighting isn't the best back here. I'm thinking I'm going to try and maybe show you guys two different ways to do this. Because it's a little bit sketchy going through the bandsaw on this. I'm not going to lie. You do have to get a little bit close. But we'll get this off cut as a push stick. My thoughts is to cut through here and down this way. And so I'll start here and then work my way back this way. We're clear. Okay. Well, let's see how she does. We'll take this little nub off. Woo! Well then. Okay, and I got a defect right here. I want to get rid of that, so. And it looks like I held it at an angle. So, but we can clean that up on the band or on the belt sander. And then we'll give it a little taper. So the taper should be this way so you can get into the pan, right? All right. So that's the bandsaw method. Now I really use that leading edge of the belt that's actually on the roller. And that's really solid, and it's really good for profiling that inner kind of scoop and slope of the paddle. where the handle transitions down into the paddle. Belt sander is all, man, it seems like it's designed to make these little spatulas. It works really good. Can't sleep on this belt sander though. I mean, one little slip up and it's taking you down to the bone in your knuckles and stuff. And I mean, quicker than that. You can't sleep on it just because it's an abrasive. That will remove material of your body very quickly. And this is, it's hard to explain. This is a lot of feel. You just have to work at it, and you know, if you're uneven a little bit, then you favor that heavy side and lean into it. All right. And now this guy. All right. Most of the sanding is sped up quite a bit. I would not recommend this way unless you were deathly afraid of the bandsaw or had no other means or didn't have one. This creates a lot of dust, a lot of heat, a lot of exposure to the band or the belt sander, and I was just showing two ways to do this in case you were limited or, well, yeah, limited by doing it the bandsaw way. It is much quicker to remove the material with the bandsaw. Man, I almost edited out that gleaming bald spot. That's bad, man. Okay, so you can see it's much more effective to use the bandsaw and get away some of that bulk material. But there's a couple, same board, sapwood, heartwood, hickory, shagbark. Okay, now this setup is less than optimal, but when I upgraded lathes, you know, I went from, well, my first lathe was 1-inch spindle, then I went to 1.25 inches, and now I'm at Morse 33. So this is definitely not optimal, all these reducers, but, so that's 1.25 inches, and now I'm 1 inch. But at the end of the day, this is just holding on a little sander that I'm not going to be cranking out 1,000 RPMs. You know, I'll probably keep it about 800. You know, so it's not optimal for sure, but it's what I have. And we got to do this to clean up these, you know, these spatulas, because they were, I don't know what that is. It looks like it's at least 80, probably 60 grit on that belt sander. So they got finished really rough. This rough finish on here. That doesn't need to be razor thin. Tell you what, that hickory makes me want barbecue though. Amazingly enough, that little thing generates enough dust to be annoying. Alright friends, thanks for checking out this video. I hope you guys get something out of it and appreciate it and had fun with it. I did. These are great little spatulas, and I am going to continue breaking down my quarter sawn boards into these spatulas. I think they're great. They seem to sell. I sold one of the two, so that's a 50% sell. That's not bad, and I think they look great. I'm going to swap out all my old bamboo ones in the house. It's like a cute butt, you just got to slap it. Alright, so I went 120 through 320, and now I've got a piece of 320, and I'm just kind of going with the grain a little bit to clean up any little scratch marks that were left behind. Is, you know, what it's all about right here. When you get to put a little bit of oil on there and pop the grain, and then you can really see all your hard work come into fruition. And man, shagbark hickory is hard to beat. The heartwood's beautiful. I like it, you know, but I really enjoy the sapwood. That's my favorite. So here's a nice little spatula. And then see, I love when you get the dark purple mixed in with the really cream colored sapwood. I just love shagbark hickory. I love this little area right here. Now I'm probably going to take these to the craft show, which is a shame though, because this is just flat out beautiful. And the shame part is I really can't get much for them. You know, I live in kind of a poor area, but it's hard to make stuff. Like, I make most my sales off $5 tops and $10 honey dippers. So I don't know. I won't be sad if these don't move, because I'm sure the wife would appreciate them. So this is my second and third spatula I've made. This is the first spatula I made out of cherry, and it's, I don't know, 6 months old. I had a video for it. I did kind of ASMR, but you can tell, you know, it's kind of starting to get the patina, because we use it every day. It's been washed, you know, 100 times or so. But you know, when you go thin, the corners kind of round up. You know what? I'm here. So you can start to see some of the older cherry up underneath there. There we go. I'll just put a little more oil back on it. And it's good to go. So we use, like I said, we use this one every day. And then I found out, if you're looking at this, if you're right-handed and you're going to scrape into the pot, I angled this the wrong way. And so that's like, if you imagine, you know, the lid, the curvature of like a skillet. So if you go to make these, you know, kind of taper them that way, not this way. See, so it's like upside down, but whatever, it's all good. All right, thanks friends for checking it out. Catch you on the next one.